God is delaying you to prepare you. When life seems to stall, understand, delay is not denial. Every pause is preparation. Every setback is a setup for greater growth. God is not withholding your destiny. He's building your capacity to handle it. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. Hold the vision and trust the timing. 1. Delay is not denial. It's divine preparation. 2. Every setback carries the seed of spiritual growth. 3. Patience builds the strength required for your destiny. 4. Hidden seasons are where true character is formed. 5. Trust the timing. God's plan is never late. When life appears to slow down, when everything you've been praying for seems just out of reach, when every effort you make doesn't produce the result you expect, pause, don't panic. There's a reason hidden in the shadows. There's a purpose disguised in the silence. Delay is not denial, my friend. It is divine preparation. Too often, people become discouraged in the waiting room of life, believing that because the door hasn't opened yet, it must never open at all. But let me tell you something that experience has engraved into the bedrock of my belief. Every delay is a tool used by the infinite intelligence to shape you, mold you, refine you. You see, success is not simply about achieving, it's about becoming. What good is a dream fulfilled if the dreamer has not been trained to sustain it? What use is a victory if the victor collapses under its weight? When you are delayed, you are being forged in the quiet furnace of time. Patience is not a punishment. It is part of the process. Think of the seed. The seed is buried in darkness, covered by layers of dirt, suffocated from the sun. It appears forgotten, but within that delay, something remarkable is happening. Roots are forming, strength is growing, the foundation is being established long before the bloom. That's how it works with us. We want the light, the stage, the applause, the breakthrough, but God says, not yet. Why? Because you need roots before you rise, you need depth before destiny, and without that unseen preparation, your success will be shallow and short-lived. Every person who's ever achieved anything worthwhile has walked through a season of waiting, wondering, weeping in private. But they didn't stop. They didn't turn back. They understood what many fail to grasp, that the silence of delay is not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of craftsmanship. God is crafting you in the quiet. He is building you in the unseen. He is preparing your heart, your mind, your strength, and your spirit for a responsibility you have not yet encountered. Do not curse the wait. Do not run from the wilderness. That delay is your teacher, your trainer, your test. It's the gym of your character, the proving ground of your faith. You cannot carry greatness if you haven't built the muscles to lift it. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You must be filled first, and sometimes God delays the pour because He is still filling the vessel. You cry out when, and He responds when you're ready. You say, why not now? And He says, because there's more to learn. You see, we're so obsessed with arrival, but God is invested in the journey. We want shortcuts, He wants growth, we want speed, He wants strength, and so He delays not to harm you, but to help you, not to break you, but to build you, not to deny you, but to develop you. I've sat with men who have climbed the mountain too fast, and when the winds blew, they fell. Their character couldn't hold what their ambition had gained. They skipped the delay. They outran the process, and they paid for it, but those who waited, who allowed time to temper them, to mature them, to prepare them, they stood strong, they endured, they shined with a wisdom that only time could teach. So I ask you today, are you in a season of delay? Has your breakthrough not arrived? Does the door still remain shut? Good. That means God is at work. That means He's not finished with you yet. That means there is more He wants to do in you before He does something through you. Embrace it. Lean into it. Don't waste the delay by complaining. Use it to grow, to pray, to study, to sharpen your gift, to deepen your relationships, to mature your emotions, to listen more closely to the voice of purpose inside you. There are lessons in the waiting room that no classroom can teach. There is gold in the ground, but you must dig. There is strength in the silence, but you must sit with it. There is wisdom in the wilderness, but you must walk through it. So many people miss their moment because they quit in the delay. They throw in the towel. They assume the dream is dead, but hear me and hear me clear. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Just because you don't see movement doesn't mean nothing is moving. Mountains shift in silence. Foundations are laid without fanfare. Don't mistake invisibility for inactivity. God's work is often underground, unseen, unheard, until suddenly you emerge and the world calls it overnight success, not knowing the nights you cried, the days you waited, the prayers you whispered in the dark. Your delay is a cocoon. It may feel like confinement, but it's really transformation. You are not stuck. You are changing. You are evolving. You are preparing. And when the time is right, when you have been shaped and strengthened, when your mind is sharp and your heart is steady, when your character matches your calling, the door will open. And this time, you'll be ready. You'll walk through it not as a desperate person chasing destiny, but as a prepared person receiving it. That's what the delay does. It matures your hunger. It purifies your motives. It separates the dreamer from the pretender. Anyone can want success, but only those willing to wait for it with grace are truly ready for it. Remember, God doesn't just give blessings, He protects them, and sometimes His delay is a shield. You're asking for something that looks good on the surface, but He sees the storm behind it. He knows what you don't. He's not trying to frustrate you. He's trying to save you. If He gave you what you wanted when you wanted it, it might destroy you. But when He gives it in His timing, it will bless you. Timing is everything. Imagine a fruit picked before it's ripe. Sour, bitter, useless, but left to ripen in its own time, sweet, nourishing, complete. So it is with your dreams. They must mature, and so must you. Delay is the divine method for that maturity. It forces you to confront your fears, to wrestle with doubt, to strengthen your resolve. It teaches you to rely on something higher than hustle, to walk by faith, not just by effort. You begin to realize that what you're building isn't just a career or a platform or a relationship. It's a legacy, and legacies aren't rushed. They're carved out in seasons of obscurity. They're born in the places nobody claps for. So don't be discouraged if nobody sees your effort right now. Don't be dismayed if no one applauds your preparation. The world may not notice, but heaven does, and when the time comes, your fruit will speak for itself. Those who laughed at your delay will marvel at your bloom. Those who questioned your path will witness your rise. But that rise depends on your endurance now. Will you stay planted when nothing is visible? Will you remain faithful when nothing feels fruitful? Will you trust the one who sees the end from the beginning, even when you feel forgotten? That's the test of the delay, not your talent, not your ambition, but your trust, your belief in a purpose higher than your timeline, your willingness to be refined, not just rewarded. And let me tell you, those who pass the test are never the same. They don't just rise, they soar. They don't just succeed, they lead. They don't just achieve, they inspire. Because their journey has given them depth, humility, and perspective, they remember what it felt like to wait. And so, when they finally arrive, they do not boast, they bless. They lift others, they extend the same grace that was shown to them. That's what makes them different. That's what makes the delay worth it. So hold on, breathe, don't curse the waiting, don't despise the process. Let it do its work. Let it shape you into someone who doesn't just reach the promise, but keeps it. Delay is not the end. It is the beginning of the becoming. It is God's whisper saying, not yet, because I love you too much to let you settle for something less than you're capable of. It is the greatest expression of care, the highest sign of trust. He delays those he's preparing. He prepares those he's planning to promote. And if he's delaying you, you better believe something bigger is coming. Something better, something bolder, something beyond what you imagined. But only if you endure, only if you hold the vision through the fog, only if you keep walking even when the road disappears. This delay is your teacher. This delay is your treasure. Embrace it. Own it. Grow through it. And when you look back, you'll thank God for every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every moment that forced you to grow, every season that taught you to believe beyond what you could see. Because you'll realize then what I'm telling you now. God wasn't holding you back. He was lifting you up slowly, surely, wisely, and your delay was divine. Every setback carries the seed of spiritual growth, and if you take a moment to reflect on your life, you'll see that every challenge, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer has left behind a quiet lesson, a subtle transformation, an unseen upgrade in who you are becoming, though you may not have recognized it at the time, because we're conditioned to view setbacks as losses, failures, punishments, and not the disguised gifts they truly are. For within each one lies the possibility of awakening, the stretching of our souls, the sharpening of our minds, and the softening of our hearts, and it is in these very moments, the ones we often try to avoid or rush through, where the real formation takes place, because success does not shape you, struggle does, and the road to greatness is not lined with ease but paved with adversity, where every obstacle is an invitation to grow, to rise, to deepen your connection with your divine source, because spiritual growth isn't born in celebration, but in confrontation, not in the harvest, but in the drought, not in the sunshine, but in the storm, and the storms come not to destroy you, but to define you, to show you what you're made of, to reveal the depth of your courage, the resilience of your spirit, and the power of your faith. And yet so many people recoil at setbacks, shrinking in fear, drowning in discouragement, questioning their worth, their path, their purpose, not realizing that what looks like rejection is often redirection. What seems like a breakdown is actually a breakthrough in disguise, because every spiritual elevation begins with some form of disruption, a shaking, a stirring, a season where you feel stripped of control, only to discover that what's being removed is not your destiny, but your dependency on what can't sustain it. And that's the hard part, isn't it? Because we love control. We cling to plans, timelines, assumptions, but God is not obligated to obey the script we wrote in our heads, and often He'll rip it apart just to show us something better, and though it hurts, it stings. That disruption is divine, because growth requires disorientation. It demands discomfort, and when you're pushed into the unfamiliar, when you're forced to let go of what's familiar, that's when the seeds of spiritual maturity start to crack open, deep beneath the surface, unseen by the eye, but fully known to God. And this is where many people miss their moment, because they try to escape the pain too soon. They medicate it, numb it, avoid it, instead of asking the deeper question: what is this trying to teach me? What muscle is this building? What illusion is this breaking? Because I promise you, no setback is wasted, not one tear falls unnoticed. Not one delay is in vain, and though it may look like nothing is happening, the spirit is expanding, the soul is stretching, and your understanding is being restructured so that you can carry not just a bigger dream, but a broader vision, one that is not rooted in ego or fear or scarcity, but in love, in wisdom, in divine alignment. And make no mistake, every great man or woman who left a mark on this world was shaped in the fire of delay, of setback, of difficulty, because the spirit must be strengthened before the platform is enlarged, the character must be developed before the crown is received. Otherwise, the very thing you prayed for could crush you, and so what you call a setback may actually be your safeguard. What you interpret as punishment could actually be your preservation, because sometimes the doors you beg to open are not locked. They are barricaded by grace, by mercy, by divine foresight that sees what you cannot, and so that heartbreak, that closed opportunity, that unexpected detour may be the best thing that ever happened to you, even though it doesn't feel like it now. And if you can shift your perspective, if you can stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How is this happening for me?" you'll uncover the hidden treasure inside every trial, the quiet blessing behind every burden, because spiritual growth doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It arrives slowly, subtly, through the repetition of hard days, through the surrender of false expectations, through the quiet courage to keep showing up when everything in you wants to give up. And I know that pain has a voice. It speaks loudly in the night. It echoes through your mind, telling you to quit, that you're not enough, that it's over. But that voice is a liar, and the truth is this: your setback is a setup for something greater, not because the universe owes you anything, but because the divine plan is deeper than you think. And when you're being delayed, you're not being dismissed. You're being disciplined, trained, pruned, not for punishment, but for power, because power without preparation is poison. Success without surrender leads to ego, and ego always collapses under pressure. So God in His mercy will delay your promotion until your posture is right, until your pride is humbled, until your identity is rooted not in what you do, but in who you are. And that kind of foundation only forms through setbacks, through seasons where nothing makes sense, but your faith refuses to waver, where your prayers feel dry, but you keep praying, where the doors stay shut, but you keep knocking. And somewhere in that perseverance, a shift happens, not around you, but within you. You stop chasing validation, and you start cultivating vision. You stop seeking applause, and you start seeking alignment. And that's when the spiritual growth begins to bloom, not like a sudden explosion, but like the dawn breaking through darkness, quiet, steady, unstoppable. And you become someone who can weather storms, someone who doesn't flinch when the winds change, someone who no longer fears the delay, but welcomes it as a signal that something sacred is happening beneath the surface, because you know now that God is never in a hurry, and He's never late. And if you're in a season of setback, you're not behind. You're being brought back to the basics, back to faith, back to discipline, back to truth, back to love. And it may not be glamorous, it may not be Instagram worthy, but it's real, and it's necessary, because you cannot fake spiritual maturity. You cannot short-cut transformation, and every short-cut you take will show up later as a weakness in your foundation. So let God build it right, even if it takes longer than you want. Let Him stretch you slowly, strip away what's shallow, expand what's eternal, and as He does, you'll begin to notice a quiet strength forming within you, a kind of peace that isn't based on circumstances, a clarity that cuts through confusion, a confidence not rooted in outcomes, but in identity. And this strength is the fruit of setbacks. It's the reward of delay, and it will serve you far more than any quick success ever could, because while others may rise quickly and fall faster, you'll be rooted, grounded, anchored in something that cannot be shaken, because you were willing to grow, to wait, to trust the process even when it hurt. And that, my friend, is the real success. Not what you achieve, but who you become in the process. Because titles fade, money comes and goes, platforms rise and fall, but character endures. And that's what God is building in your setback. Not just a blessing, but a backbone. Not just influence, but integrity. Not just impact, but intimacy with Him. And that's worth every delay, every detour, every disappointment. So stop despising the season you're in. Stop wishing it away. Start asking what it's here to teach you, what it's meant to grow in you, and how it's shaping you for the next level. Because it is, even if you can't see it yet. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the very thing you thought was blocking your path was actually the thing that built it. And in that moment, you'll thank God for every setback, because without them, you wouldn't be who you are, and who you're becoming is far more valuable than what you're achieving. So trust the setback, lean into it, and let it grow you from the inside out. God doesn't delay to deny you. He delays to define you, because there is something about being placed in a position of pause, of waiting, of what feels like divine silence, that shapes a person from the inside out. And while the world teaches you to move fast, to hustle, to produce at all costs, the divine principle operates on another rhythm entirely, one that values inner strength over outer speed. And so when things seem slow, when it feels like you're falling behind, when you watch others leap ahead while you remain in what feels like the same place, it's tempting to assume something is wrong with you, that maybe you missed your moment, that perhaps you took the wrong turn. But what if I told you that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, not because your plans are playing out perfectly, but because your character is being crafted with precision, because the truth is, while the crowd claps for progress, heaven prepares for purpose, and purpose requires process, and process includes delay, pressure, pruning, and perseverance. And when God delays you, it's not to make you suffer, it's to make you stronger, not in the obvious ways the world celebrates, but in hidden places that no one claps for. Your patience, your ability to forgive when it hurts, your integrity when no one's watching, your discipline when it would be easier to quit. And the irony of life is this: the delay feels like nothing is happening, but in reality, everything important is happening, because you're not being defined by what's happening around you. You're being defined by what's being developed within you, and it's that internal transformation that sustains real, lasting success. Because what good is it to rise if you're not rooted? What good is speed without direction? What good is public applause when your private self is in chaos? And so the delay becomes sacred, a workshop of the soul, where God strips away the things you thought you needed, the illusions you carried, the insecurities you masked, the pride you pretended was confidence, and He replaces all of it with what's real: wisdom, humility, clarity, trust, and a deep sense of identity that's not tied to titles, outcomes, or opinions, but grounded in who you truly are and why you were sent here. And if you study the lives of anyone who's achieved something truly meaningful, whether in leadership, creativity, business, or spiritual influence, you'll find that their path wasn't linear, it wasn't quick, and it wasn't painless. No, it was filled with detours, disappointments, delays, but they didn't let the delay define their limits. They let it refine their identity, and you can't too, but it starts with shifting your mindset, because when you believe the delay is punishment, you resist it, you resent it, you rush to escape it. But when you recognize the delay is preparation, everything changes. You stop striving and start surrendering, not in weakness, but in wisdom. Knowing that the right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing, and even the best dream delivered prematurely becomes a burden instead of a blessing. So when God delays you, it's not because you're disqualified. It's because you're being distinguished, set apart for something specific, something sacred, and He's making sure that when your time comes, you'll be ready, not just to step into the spotlight, but to withstand the pressure that comes with it, because promotion always brings pressure, and if you haven't been developed in the quiet, you'll be destroyed in the public. So this delay, frustrating as it may be, is the greatest act of love, a divine protection plan, ensuring that when the opportunity arrives, you're not just talented enough. You're mature enough, mentally strong enough, emotionally balanced enough, spiritually anchored enough to steward the blessing. Well, and that kind of readiness cannot be faked, it can't be bought, it can't be hacked or hurried. It has to be built layer by layer, moment by moment, through repetition, through routine, through seasons of silence and solitude and stillness, and yes, sometimes suffering, because the delay doesn't just teach you how to wait. It teaches you how to war against doubt, how to war against envy, how to war against the temptation to settle for something smaller than what you were made for. And make no mistake, every delay brings with it a temptation to quit, to compromise. Compare to chase cheap shortcuts or flashy substitutes. But if you hold the line, if you stay grounded in truth, if you keep showing up with faith even when you don't see results, you'll be building something far more valuable than a result. You'll be building resilience, and resilience is the engine of all lasting success, because life will test you, opportunities will stretch you, critics will mock you, pressure will challenge you, and only those who have been refined in the delay will stand tall in the demand. And I know, it's hard to wait. It's hard to watch others win while you're still wondering when, but remember this. What's being developed in the delay is going to determine what you can handle in the destiny. So stop measuring your life by the calendar and start measuring it by the character being formed, because the truth is, your greatest breakthroughs will come not just through what you do, but through who you become, and becoming is a process. It's not microwavable, it's not instant, it's not sexy or shareable. It's slow, deep, often painful, but always purposeful. And if you can stop seeing the delay as a curse and start seeing it as a calling, you'll start walking through it with a new level of peace, because you'll know that what looks like being held back is actually being held up. Like a building being elevated with a stronger foundation, like a rocket being filled with fuel before takeoff, like a tree growing deeper roots before bearing fruit, and everything that lasts is built this way, slowly, quietly, with care and intention, and that's what God is doing in you. He's forming the foundation that your future will rest on, and while the world may not see it, while others may not understand it, while even you may doubt it sometimes, the truth is still the truth. You are not being denied. You are being defined, and this definition is going to outlast any success you could manufacture on your own, because the delay is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your becoming, and once you embrace that, once you lean into the process instead of resisting it, you'll find a new rhythm, a sacred patience, a bold trust that says, I may not be there yet, but I'm being shaped for it, and when the time is right, I won't have to force it. It will flow because I will be ready. And until then, you'll keep building, keep learning, keep praying, keep refining, keep trusting, because the preparation is not punishment. It's proof that what's coming is worth the wait, and you, my friend, are being built for something greater than you can imagine, and this delay is simply God's way of making sure you're defined by strength, not speed, by purpose, not pressure, by faith, not fear. And when it's all said and done, you'll look back on this season and realize it didn't break you, it built you. Sometimes the silence of God is the loudest answer you'll ever receive, because in that silence, He is speaking not in words, but in wisdom, not in noise, but in knowing, not in activity, but in awareness. And while it may feel like you're being ignored, like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, like your dreams are gathering dust on some divine shelf, the truth is, the silence is not rejection. It is redirection, realignment, refinement, and even though your flesh craves signs and certainty, the Spirit is being taught how to trust in stillness, and trust, real trust, is not born when things are going your way, but when everything seems quiet and uncertain, yet you choose to keep believing, keep hoping, keep moving forward anyway. And in this world of fast answers, quick fixes, and instant feedback, silence feels like suffering, but in heaven's language, silence is often sacred, a signal that something is shifting beneath the surface, something invisible is being constructed behind the curtain of your life, something that will not be rushed, and we've been conditioned to equate silence with absence, but divine silence is not absence. It is presence so deep, so intentional, that it transcends language and enters the realm of formation, and what's being formed in silence is something no noise could ever produce, because in silence, you're confronted with yourself, stripped of distractions, exposed to your own doubts, fears, and motives, and it is there, in that raw honesty, that growth begins, not the kind that shows up on social media or gets applause from the crowd, but the kind that stabilizes your soul, deepens your discernment, sharpens your awareness, and grounds your identity. And when you walk through a season where God feels silent, it's not because he has nothing to say. It's because he is saying something so profound that your spirit needs stillness to receive it. And the problem is, most people panic in the pause. They interpret the quiet as a crisis. They rush to fill the space with noise, with opinions, with plans, with substitutes, but the wise person understands that silence is not a void to fear. It is a vessel to fill with presence, and that presence begins with surrender, because only when you stop demanding answers can you start receiving insights, and insight is far more valuable than information, because information fills your head, but insight transforms your heart, and the heart is where real decisions are made, where courage is birthed, where purpose is confirmed. And so while the silence stretches you, confuses you, frustrates you, it also shapes you, refines you, and matures you. And the irony is, what seems like the slowest season of your life is actually the most accelerated transformation of your spirit. Because in the silence, you learn how to stand when there's no applause, how to speak when there's no affirmation, how to serve when there's no recognition, and how to lead when there's no clarity. And that kind of internal fortitude cannot be faked. It has to be forged, and forging takes fire, time, pressure, and space, and silence provides all four, because it removes the crutches, the validations, the voices you've grown too dependent on, and it teaches you how to walk again, not by sight, not by feedback, but by faith. And faith is not faith if you only trust when you understand. Faith is trusting when nothing makes sense, when everything looks opposite, when delay feels like denial, when the path is dark, and all you have is a whisper in your soul telling you, keep going, and you keep going. Not because you feel like it, not because you see results, but because something deeper than reason has taken root inside you, and that something is called alignment, and alignment is born in the silence, where your spirit finally slows down enough to hear the subtle voice of truth, to catch the vision hidden beneath the noise, and to receive instructions that cannot be delivered in chaos, because heaven doesn't yell at whispers, and only the still can hear it. And that's why God sometimes pulls you away, isolates you, hides you, quiets everything around you, not to punish you, but to position you, to tune your ear to the frequency of His purpose, because your calling is too important to be formed by popular opinion, too sacred to be shaped by shallow validation, too costly to be led by crowd approval. And so He allows the silence to strip away everything that's not real, and that stripping hurts, but it heals, it wounds, but it wakes you up, and in that wake up, you stop begging for things that were never meant for you, stop chasing timelines that were never designed for your growth, and stop living by the metrics of the world, because now you understand that just because it's quiet doesn't mean God is distant, and just because it's delayed doesn't mean it's denied, and just because it's hard doesn't mean it's hopeless. Because in the silence, you begin to hear things differently. Not just externally, but internally, you begin to hear your own voice, not the version shaped by fear or pride, but the one God designed before the noise got to you, the one that speaks in truth, courage, and clarity, and that voice begins to echo in your decisions, in your discipline, in your direction, and suddenly, you no longer chase validation, you carry vision, and vision doesn't scream, it guides, it corrects, it leads with quiet authority, and you begin to walk in a way that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful, because now your power is rooted in presence, not performance, in peace, not pressure, in purpose, not panic. And all of this was born in the silence, the very silence you once resented, and now you see it was never a punishment. It was a portal, and once you've gone through it, you're never the same. You're calmer in chaos, more stable in storms, more anchored in uncertainty, because you've learned how to hear what can't be heard with ears, only with the Spirit, and the Spirit doesn't shout, it senses, it discerns, it knows, and once you know, you no longer fear the silence, you welcome it, because you realize it's not the absence of answers. It's the presence of awareness, and awareness is the soil of transformation. So the next time you find yourself in a season of silence, don't rush to escape it. Don't panic. Don't assume God has forgotten you. Lean in. Listen deeper. Be still, because you're not being abandoned. You're being addressed, not with noise, but with nuance, and that nuance will carry you through seasons that noise never could, because noise fades. But what's formed in silence lasts forever. And you, my friend, are being formed for forever impact. And it starts by embracing what most avoid, by sitting with what most run from, by waiting when others waver, and in doing so, you become a vessel for something real, something that cannot be shaken by delay or denial or disappointment, because now you know the silence is not empty. It's full of everything you need to become who you were always meant to be. When the door doesn't open, when the call doesn't come, when the answer doesn't arrive, and when everything in you wants to believe it's over, maybe that's the precise moment you're being made ready, because it's in the delay, not in the arrival, where champions are formed, where leaders are carved from common men and women, where the calling becomes stronger than the craving, and the process begins to prove more valuable than the prize. And so many people think that when they're delayed, they're being punished, overlooked, rejected, or forgotten. But if you look closer, if you quiet chaos and pay attention, you'll realize the delay is actually divine preparation, because God never wastes a delay. He uses it like a craftsman uses fire, like a sculptor uses the chisel, like a gardener uses the waiting season before the harvest. And when you think he's denying you, he's actually refining you, sanding off what doesn't belong, removing what can't go with you to the next level, enlarging your capacity to hold the blessing you've been asking for. And if you're not careful, you'll curse the very season that's shaping your destiny. You'll rush through the very process that's maturing your character. You'll pray for shortcuts when the long road is exactly what you need, because success too soon will destroy you, but success at the right time will define you, and God cares more about who you're becoming than how fast you get there, because what good is a platform if you have no peace to stand on it? What good is a promotion if you don't have the principles to protect it? What good is opportunity if you lack the wisdom to steward it? And the truth is, you don't grow in comfort. You grow in tension, and delay is one of the greatest sources of tension you'll ever face, because it exposes your trust, it reveals your motives, it tests your endurance, and it stretches your vision. And when everything in you wants to quit, that's when the real training begins, because champions aren't made when it's easy. They're forged in the furnace of waiting, in the days no one sees, in the moments no one claps for, in the discipline that doesn't trend but builds unshakable foundations. And when you're in a delayed season, when nothing seems to be working, when every door feels locked, that's not the time to give up. It's the time to go deeper, to dig your roots further, to increase your excellence, to sharpen your skills, to refine your mindset, because when the opportunity does come, and it will come, you won't have time to get ready. You must already be ready, and readiness is not built in the spotlight. It's developed in the shadows, in obscurity, in faithfulness when no one is watching, and that's why God hides you, why he withholds the very thing you think you need, because he knows what's ahead, and he loves you enough to delay you until you're durable enough to handle it. And some doors haven't opened because your heart would have turned the blessing into an idol. Some platforms haven't appeared because your identity is still too rooted in performance. Some relationships haven't begun because you'd lose yourself trying to keep someone who was never meant to stay. And though it hurts now, the delay is saving you from detours that would have cost you far more than time. They would have cost you purpose. And so instead of resenting the wait, learn to respect it, to embrace it, to let it do its work in you, because there's something happening beneath the surface, something sacred, something necessary, and it may not look impressive others, but what's happening inside of you is far more important than what's happening around you, because people see the fruit, but God prepares the root, and roots take time. They require darkness, depth, and silence, and you can't Instagram roots. You can't put filters on foundation, but everything you want to build, your legacy, your impact, your influence, it depends on how well you allow the root system to develop. And every day you spend in the delay, every tear you cry in silence, every prayer you pray in the dark, every act of obedience that no one sees is building something strong in you, something that won't collapse under pressure, something that won't fall apart when the storms come. And yes, they will come, because life won't get easier at the top. The winds are stronger up there. The stakes are higher, the distractions louder, and you'll need the kind of strength that only comes from time-tested faith, from character built brick by brick, from discipline formed in daily devotion. And so God lets the delay dig deep into your soul, not to break you, but to build you, not to discourage you, but to direct you, not to confuse you, but to construct in you the kind of man or woman who can carry what others would drop. And when you look back, you'll see that everything you thought was holding you back was actually holding you together. Every no was protection, every closed door was direction, every lonely night was preparation, and every unanswered prayer was God giving you not what you wanted, but what you needed most: strength, resilience, clarity, and vision. And vision is vital, because if you don't have vision, you'll perish in delay. You'll start comparing yourself to others, measuring your worth by their timelines, resenting their progress while overlooking your own growth. But vision reminds you that delay is not deviation, it's development, and you are not late. You are right on time for what's being formed in you. And though the world celebrates speed, heaven values strength, and strength takes time. So trust the slowness, because it's in the slow that the soul is shaped. In the hidden seasons that true depth is developed. And once you've been through enough delays, you begin to realize that the waiting wasn't wasted, it was working, that every silent moment was packed with purpose, every detour was filled with design, and every pause was preparing you for something greater. And when that door finally opens, when that dream becomes reality, when that promise is fulfilled, you'll be ready, not just receive it, but to protect it, to sustain it, to grow it, and to steward it well, because now you've become the person who doesn't just get blessed. You carry the blessing, and you've learned how to walk with wisdom, to lead with integrity, to serve with excellence, and to love with depth. And none of that would have happened without the delay. And so don't curse the delay, don't despise the process, don't rush the preparation, rejoice in it, because it means you matter. It means your destiny is too important to be rushed, your assignment too significant to be handled carelessly, your life too impactful to be built on shortcuts. And when God delays you, it's because He's not just answering your prayer, He's building your character. And in the end, it's not about how fast you arrive, but about who you become on the way, because that's what lasts, that's what echoes through eternity. And that, my friend, is worth every single second of the wait.